this is about PDFA. I want to do it in a little more intense course or class than we did it this morning in the 7 minutes. Take a couple of minutes more to introduce the standard and its specialities and whatnot. But then in the end, I want to leave the technical description of the standard that probably most of us have heard of before now. I'm not going to drop that completely because it's the basic track, but do that. And then I talk a little bit about pros and cons and what people say for and against PDFA out there in the market that we as a manufacturer of software hear every other day. So that might be things to hold up a project going PDFA or something like that. So, however, let's start. You saw that slide already this morning, if you have been there. I told you this is the longer version of this morning. So once more, has everybody been, who hasn't been in the 7 minutes presentation this morning? 2, 3. Okay, well, okay, good. PDFA is the description of how to use PDF in a long-term archiving environment. So it describes in a do's and don't list what to do with PDFA and what to do with PDF and what not to avoid features that are dangerous for long-term archives. Example given, PDFs every day that we create out there create active content. Active content is something that is forbidden in PDFA. Totally everyday thing in PDF. Why is it dangerous to have active content in the archive? There's decisions in there. There's JavaScript in there. There's things in there showing a document, and that document, say it's an invoice. It shows a total amount of 1,000 euros on the downside there. And this 1,000 euros is a calculation of a couple of other figures in there. What happens if this can't be interpreted in the future? Or whether there's some JavaScript and it says, if you show the invoice to me, it's $2,000. If you show it to the customer, it's $1,000 or something like that, right? So there's all kinds of difficulties around active content and for sure a whole lot more serious examples than I could give here. So that's why this feature, for example, is total common sense in PDF, but completely out of the possibilities, not possible to do that in PDFA. Other precautions to make a PDF long-term archive ready, thus using PDFA, has to be, and I told you that this morning, has to be device software version independent. Probably a mixture of this thing is another example. PDF every day has features in it that says, if I am displayed on whatever DPI this thing now has, 96 DPI display, render the graphic 2 down there in this position here. If I'm rendered or displayed on a 600 DPI printer, use the graphic over there at the same place, right? So that's both active content, not really clear. Again, when we have to render documents in the far future on a technology that we can't predict, with 129-bit Windows or so, you can't really rely on active decision, because what happens if the devices of the future have neither 600 DPI nor 96 DPI? It just comes to an unclear decision. It does something unpredictable probably. So those things for sure can't go into an archive where we want to have content in there that we can take from our archive once the lawsuit comes up in 30 years, in product liability or whatever, in the same fashion, looking exactly the same like we did it, put it into the archive today. Those are the precautions for here that I mentioned before, and when you do that, you end up with a static representation of content, which we also call, and I repeat it because I like it, we also call electronic paper. Static. Once more, all the 3 parts are there. Part 1, and I probably have to not say a lot about that. Part 1 is based on PDF 1.4. Part 2 is based on ISO 32000. And if there's ISO 32002, saying PDF 2.0, we will have a next part, probably 4, of PDFA saying And by the way, in terms of ISO 32000, those are the new features, and those are good and those are bad. Right? Again, the PDFA description is just the do's and don'ts to make it archive ready. Part 3 is a whole lot different though. And part 3 started a big discussion already during the standardization, because while we kind of told everybody before everything has to go to PDFA so that it is long-term secure, you can't put native formats from your Word or Excel or whatever in your long-term archive. Yeah? It's not working. You have to take precautions. All of a sudden, we came out with part 3 of PDFA and said, guess what? You can put your native formats into the PDFAs now. And it was a little bit a confusion around that. And of course, a big discussion. Librarians in the standardization committee, those forever guys, were like all over it. They didn't want to have it in there. From the community of the industry archives, let's say, and the everyday use of PDFA, there was a strong influence to get this going, because when you think twice about it and look at the use cases, there's a whole bunch of things you can do about that. Just you never, ever can lose focus on what is the archival part of a PDFA document and what is the non-archival part of a PDFA document. This is difficult. This got a whole bunch of criticism where people said, you know what, now you create a PDFA3 that has nothing in there, just this Word file attachment in there. And when you do though, people will feel, I'm doing PDFA, I'm all fine. And they're not. They are archiving a wrapper around a native format. And the native format is what goes in the archive in terms of content. So we all had to promise from the industry side that we will go out there and tell everybody, don't do the wrong thing. The archival part is only the PDFA part. The attachment part in part 3, the Excel spreadsheet and whatnot, in no case is the archival part. It's just the temporary use intelligent attachment there that you can of course use for different use cases. Say you have, I don't know, an archival material, converted an Excel spreadsheet into PDFA. You put that in your archive, the PDFA with the Excel spreadsheet embedded. The Excel spreadsheet might be taken out of that again and go on working with, but again, what you put in your archive again is again then from the new version of the Excel spreadsheet, again, a PDFA file around that, and put that in the archive. That's what we call hybrid archiving. So you have a combination of an archival material together with a document that is still in its life cycle. Those enterprise content management or document management systems, some do, most don't. They don't support, in many cases, to have for one archival good, 2 documents. So a PDFA version and a Microsoft Word version, and this is the same document, and the enterprise content management could make sure that I have just 2 different things, representations for one single document, let's say. That's not possible in most cases. SER is a different thing, but most of the archiving systems or enterprise content management system can't. With PDFA now, you can embed the living document, PDFA3, you can embed the living document into the archival PDFA wrapper. Just make sure that you transport the content into PDFA and only attach for user friendliness the original file and put that one item in your archive, and all of a sudden you can do hybrid archiving with every document management system or enterprise content management system out there. So this is the PDFA3 big discussion. Yeah, please.
At least 2 questions on this.
Yeah.
And you say you have one stable part and
Yeah.
one changed
Unstable part. Right, exactly.
Changed.
Yeah.
Changed.
Yeah.
And PDFA will change.
No. That's again, that's the application layer. So what to do with that around? What I'm saying is you have one file, that's the PDFA3 file.
Yeah.
And in that file, most of it is PDFA and thus archival material and stable. And then there's this attachment in there that you can use for any use. You take it out of there and work on it. And then change it.
Put back.
No, you don't put it back. You would create a new PDFA based on a new version, and then you have a version 1 hybrid archive, archival and non-archival, and a version 2. Check it back into your document management system that does the versioning. Yeah.
And now, where's the benefit?
The benefit of that is, you know what? I postpone the answer until I get to the use cases here.
Okay.
There's a couple of them. Okay. That slide is also, but it's not, I only had 3 slides this morning, so we got them all. And the other slides are unique. The use case we have today for PDFA, just independent from PDFA3, all over the place, is scanned documents for a long time. Long time, people convert their scans mass-wise, or on the iPhone nowadays, to PDFA. Including compression for color scanning, including high compression rates as well for black and white and whatnot, including OCR, which is a PDF feature that is also, of course, allowed in PDFA, including probably digital signatures where it is needed in some industry. You can only delete your paper when you digitally qualified sign your document, all this complicated stuff. It is all possible. You can do that in PDFA and for a long time already. Relatively new to that, although it was there from day one, but from the level of application and all was taken up in the market, is the conversion of born digital content more. So it's just a little bit more difficult to do so. To convert an Office document, an arbitrary Word file, into PDFA is not a big challenge. Save as, in most cases, does the Microsoft Office package. It allows you, if you don't know that, on the second page of this Save As dialog in Microsoft Office suites of actual versions, it allows you to switch to something that is very spooky. It says compatible to ISO 19005-1. And what it means is, that's the number for the PDFA standard. So you can save as PDFA just in your Office package if you do that on the desktop. On the server side, when we're talking about corporate archives and whatnot, things get a little tricky. I told you before, when we convert anything to PDFA, we have to put all the components in there that we need to render the document. In many cases, companies use their company-owned fonts. Those fonts might not be available on the server. And how do you embed something that is just not there? It's just referenced, and is sitting in the user computer, probably not on the server. Okay, can be solved. You put it on the server. In other cases, converting born digital documents need, and if it's technically otherwise possible, that's good, but sometimes a license to have a software being allowed to open a file format. Now, when you do server-side conversion and these applications are user applications, desktop applications, you end up, and you end up with running and automating user client software, desktop software on a server and convert 10 million files a month. Having a virtual, I click on this OK button when it again pops up. In this, we all know it from say, our Office suites and whatnot, how difficult that can be. Software is available today that manages exactly that. Not for every file format, and many file formats can just be read, but for some specific file formats, it's just not possible or allowed to do it any different. PDF to PDFA conversion is an own animal in itself. Not as easy as it sounds. Again, sometimes there's missing pieces and components, and if you are forced to use a device-independent color profile, let's say, and you just don't have it, and you have to convert it, and what does the conversion do? And it's on the server. Can somebody look at that? No, not. It's unattended processing in most cases. So there's things to do. And recently, since I'd say a year or two, the trend of email management in archiving systems came up. So people start in their enterprises to offload emails from their mail server environments into their document management system or enterprise content management system. Why is that? Once those mail servers explode every other day, just the sheer volume. Secondly, they want to have all the communication with the customers in one place. Makes sense, right? So when I write a letter, it goes into the customer file. When I send an email, no, has to go in there, right? Has to go into the customer file. So that's email management. The next level, of course, is email archiving. Now you have it in your document management system, and you have it in an MSG format, or you have it in an EML format. And when you open that up, there's again a bunch of native files in there. Office formats, CAD files, everything comes with an email, right? So making sure that you convert intelligently emails to PDFA is a trend that is just recently on our tables that we need to do. Now, use case scan documents. I showed this thing to shell shock my audience already in a presentation before, but what I'm saying here with this slide is, now I'm focusing on the use case scan documents, is compression is possible. Scan documents tend to be big in size, uncompressed letter size scan of an A4 or letter size or A4 page in 300 dpi in color, 24 bits color, is uncompressed 25 megabytes. Can't do that in an archive. So what people invented ages ago, in the 70s or something, is TIFF group 4 compression. We heard TIFF in the presentation this morning in the keynote. Many, many companies still use TIFF out there for the good old reason that it's small. Color scanning, we heard JPEG this morning. This guy was doing JPEG. Yeah, sure. JPEG has a little bit of downside on the compression ratio. At the moment where you apply compression, that is like in the same size as your TIFF group 4, it's ruined. There's a certain threshold. When you go under that in terms of file size, your characters and fonts get halos around them, and when the OCR comes, says, I can't read anything here. So it's difficult as a file format, so you'll normally end up with a slightly bigger document. Now with PDF, I have to say, and it's not forbidden in the menu of what to do in PDFA or something, so also in PDFA, we can apply advanced compression schemas. Those compression schema here does a segmentation of the original scan into 3 layers, full size layers. Sort out statistically those layers and put only in every single layer what belongs together. For example, the background noise, the sepia or yellowish background of a document, or even a real photo in an insurance claim or something like that, goes into the background layer, and the background layer is compressed with what? With an image compression schema like JPEG or JPEG 2000. And there's no noise from hard edges, characters, tables, or whatever that disturb JPEG, because that's segmented out into the middle layer, which is black and white. And the black and white sharp edges, what is that? That's TIFF group 4 compression. And the front then just holds the information, what color the text had before. We make it an image and compress it. Then we end up with files that are really small. And all of a sudden, it's not only no TIFF file any longer that can't be OCR'd or can't hold the OCR in the file, that's probably not even visible on some Windows machines because they dropped this damn TIFF viewer at some point on there. All of a sudden we end up with a PDFA file that's archive ready, searchable, highly compressed, and it's all possible. So no wonder the use case scanned documents in PDFA took off from the get-go. A couple of examples here, skip that. And now, that is possible PDFA1, PDFA2 as well, PDFA3, from just the mere compression schema and how it can all be put into a PDFA file. PDFA3 now again has this arbitrary attachment kind of thing. Start answering it. It's a first answer, coming more. Yeah. Has this option. The PDFA3 has this option to access or store and take with it. Yeah. In one file, metadata or attachments of any form, and that can also hold metadata. Metadata is sometimes a very temporary thing. Think about a scan service bureau on the one hand, and they scan it all in and add some metadata in there, and the metadata is really just used for being able to import everything into my archive once I received it on a client side. This metadata is temporary. In this case, the metadata can as well easily be stored as an attachment in that file to describe what it is. And again, the PDFA3 thing kicks in here. Make sure what you're doing there, because in some cases, and that's my first case here, metadata is even more important than the scanned document itself. So librarians say, I can use metadata without an image. I can't use an image without metadata. So sometimes the metadata is more important than the scan. And if that is the case, and we're going to talk about archiving metadata, then we put it in XMP. We heard that this morning already. XMP is the XML-based metadata structure that PDFA holds since part 1 and asks for to be used where it says should be easy to analyze, should be put in context, should use metadata. It's a PDFA requirement. And again, you've got to check what you're doing. It's of course very easy to say my metadata is in a CSV file for importing, or my metadata is in an XML file for importing, just attach it if it's for importing. Then it's living in the database, not in the file any longer, and you can't confuse it, you can't mix up things, it's just one file. It's easy to handle. If you put it in the archival part again, it's good for long-term archiving, but it's difficult to create. Probably you have to create an XMP private extension schema, because it holds from standard just a certain package of metadata that might have nothing to do with your third-party invoice scanning that you have outsourced to a service bureau or something like that. So first thing would be easy to transport, and for scanned documents, I think PDF A3 can be the end-all be-all kind of solutions, because the PDFA itself keeps it readable. The MRC compression or others make it small. The OCR makes it searchable, and the attachment can help import, handle, or whatever, at least temporary, your need for exchanging documents, transporting it, and importing it, or whatever. As I said, the bit more trickier use case are the born digital documents. Now, leaving scanned documents, moving forward to, how am I doing on time, by the way?
No, 70 minutes.
17 minutes? Yeah. Oh, it's never going to make that. Okay. The born digital use case is a little bit more complicated, as I said before. And I gave you examples. We're talking about font handling, font embedding here that is just not out of the box. You have to take, or not you, but the software vendors have to take care for solving these problems. When you go from PDF to PDFA, let's say, you have to implement all kinds of fix-up in your software that says, if I ever hit something like that, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this to end up with something that is similar in look and feel, but PDFA compliant. And how to read the source format, I said before, and Microsoft Word controlled environment of a server without a user interface is also not that easy in that case. But again, that's software scope, that's our to-do list, and not the to-do list of the user, and it's long proven in the meantime. That's a little bit a thing that I added to my presentation like in a year ago or something like that. It's proven now, it's used, it's supported in many, many projects. Although we heard in a keynote that there's still things to do this morning. I won't say anything about that. But anyway, there are projects out there where it is just used. Even in unattended server-side processing like the who co-work this morning wanted to have. Again, the new thing in the born digital context as well in that use case is PDF A3. So this PDF A2 plus this one more thing of attaching arbitrary file formats. If you listen to the presentation of PDF 2.0 from François, right? You already heard about. I didn't do anything. Time is over, or what is it? Well.
Open it again.
Yes, will do. Just a couple clicks away now. That's what we all did already. Good. So when you listen to the PDF 2.0 description on what's new in PDF 2.0, that's just expected to come out next year, you heard a lot about exactly what's written there. PDF A3 already allows associated files, which is not yet available in the full PDF and will only be available from next year on. And the thing is, you can attach arbitrary file formats, as I said, and can put them in context to your main document. So it can be the source file of the main document. So let's say you have this Word file, converted it to PDFA, attach it into that PDFA to have something to go on working with, the living document, then you can give this the relationship of being the source. Say you have a diagram on page 10 of the document, and that diagram was created based on an Excel spreadsheet. It's a graph based on an Excel spreadsheet. You can call that Excel spreadsheet that you attach as well inside the PDFA document, PDF A3 document. You call that the data for that table on page 10 or what it was. And you can have different visualizations. François made an example of an XML file, XSLT transformation that was the source and a supplement for creating that PDF file in the beginning. PDF A3 already has that. The downside a little bit is the relationship between the attachments and the main document are not yet visible in the viewers out there, but that's, I think, an implementation detail that we will all see once it's also available in the bigger context of PDF 2.0 next year. Again, the use case for that is hybrid archiving. Put your living document together with your archival document in one file, check it in. When you work on check it in means making a new revision in an enterprise content management or whatever kind of version control system. Check it out, work on the attachment, again create a hybrid PDFA, check that in as the next version, and you don't know when the life cycle of your document is ending or is going to end. You don't know that. So what's the time? When in the life cycle do you create a PDFA derivative for long-term archiving of this specific file? My suggestion is always, with every revision, and you're safe, because the latest revision might be the last revision. You never know. So just really create a PDFA derivative for every version that you check in. We call it hybrid archiving, now available in one file with PDFA3. Again, make sure that you don't fall into this trap or pitfall of PDFA3. It has to be converted, that's for sure. Otherwise, you end up with nothing or an unreasonable feeling of security. Again, the machine-readable thing is something that I kind of touched before. It can be something that you need for importing. It can be something in a different context. It's machine-readable. It has a certain lifespan, and when the lifespan is over, it just has no use anymore. So you can just ignore it and have not to make sure that this lives forever. Or you can, also in the case of hybrid archiving, can say the attachment lives as long as it lives. And at some point it dies and you can't render it anymore. But so what? When this happens, the life cycle will almost positively be over of the document, and you still have the long-term rendition around that. Okay, that last sentence is just a repetition of that. You could do that with the PowerPoint presentation here. That's another PowerPoint presentation I did at some point. Thomas is always doing that. He is going to send me a PDF file of a presentation, and I'm saying, oh, I like that. I want to use a slide of that. Can you send me the PowerPoint of that? And he says, well, it's attached, right? So the attachment, you can't read. I can't read it from here, so you probably can't read from there as well. But, the attachment is something that you can see up there where the brief clip is here, the paper clip is here. And you see that in the, let's say, Acrobat Reader or in other readers, exactly like you know it from your email attachment. You click on the paper click and there's the list of attachments in there. And in this case, you have a PDFA file around there. You can archive my valuable long-term ready presentation here for the next 30 years. And the attachment, if you want to use a slide, open it, you got the PowerPoint, can edit. Another example, has somebody attended the Zugpferd presentation from Bernd Wild already today? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, good. So you know. The others don't know. And there is a new standard just about to be released that is worked on now for, say, 2 years or something like that. And now, what does it worth? What is good for, right? What is good for? It's the Zugpferd example I think is a perfect example. You create an electronic invoice. And doing so today, what you do is, on the one side, you have a database with all the structured information of that invoice. What you do is, you break that all apart, throw it away, make it a PDF file with no structured data in that, send it over to the receiving side. This poor guy receives an invoice that is completely unstructured and has to implement a super sophisticated data capture system to create that data again that was just deleted on the other side. Yeah, so that costs hundreds of thousands every time, every day, for companies who just deal a lot with invoices and can't use, for specific reasons, automatic invoice exchange like EDI or something like that. Zugpferd is now invented to stop that. Zugpferd is a German norm, a specification based on international, even worldwide standards, UNCE fact. And what it does, it specifies an XML record that holds invoice data in a structured, exchangeable, everybody knows how to do that kind of way. And the definition is you send out an electronic invoice as a PDF file. And if you do PDF, you do PDFA. Just keep that in mind, okay? Send it out as a PDFA file. You can put it in an archive on the receiving side once you ran it through your validator or evaluator, or that was called this morning, and check that it's PDFA. And you strip the attachment out of that, the XML, and feed that to your ERP software, which will read it and no capture. No time, no money wasted. You can exchange invoices now without a written contract like you need in EDI, from everybody to everybody who has an EDP system that supports it. And the XML, again, is an attachment with a limited lifespan. The lifespan is just from the sending side to the receiving side. It's imported, can throw away. The context around that is the PDFA file. Please, go ahead for archiving.
What I've heard today is, from Zug, that is, the XML can be the origin, the legal evidence.
No.
And not the PDF. What's said today? The owner can, the receiver can select what is good, the PDF
Yes.
or the XML.
Yeah, exactly. It's not
So-
the, yeah. Mhm.
So the evidence is on the XML.
No.
Get rid of the PDF.
No, you can. If you specify, that was a really, this thing was standardized with very high pressure and very high attendance from even, it was shortly before the elections, so even Chancellor Merkel visited the CeBIT show and came on, and, well, that's great for helping small companies and whatnot. Okay, blah, blah, blah. The upside of that is we put in a call to the Ministry of Finance and said, how are we going to treat this thing when we have an XML invoice in a PDF invoice container, all of a sudden having two? What's going to happen if some of our users poor users is sued about that? What happens if those two are showing different values and stuff like that? And the Ministry of Finance came up in 2 weeks with a clear written statement of how it will treat that. And what they say is, it doesn't matter. What they say, it doesn't matter. You document anyway how you have to check your incoming invoices. That's a procedure you have to have in place in every company. In this procedure, you say, we read the PDF file, look at our other documents, and they say it's okay, and pay the invoice with what we see in there and put it in taxes. When you put into your documentation of your processes, we receive the PDF, grab out the XML and never even look into the PDF, and process the XML, then this is your invoice. That's called a steuerliches Mehrstück. I can't translate that. So it's clear, it's clarified. And in this case, I think it's a perfect example. Long-term archiving ready, put the invoice in your archive, done, together with a limited lifespan attachment that is a living document, in this case to avoid capture processes. And
isn't it something which was already around for many, many years, like EDI, Unifact, and so on?
It's not,
with a
yeah.
human readable visualization.
Yeah, no, it's not. I don't want to go too deep into Zugfeld, otherwise I get, I will definitely use up too much of my time, but it's not. It's something for even companies using EDI with their Class A suppliers. They have contracts in place to be able to make EDI exchanges. This thing here can be sent to anybody. And either he can read the attachment or not, but it's working in any case. You don't need a contract. You don't need to talk about something, agree on something, just do. In this case, it's easier, and that's what it's meant for, as something in addition to EDI, not to replace. Okay, email to PDFA. I said that's really difficult because now we not only have the Born Digital documents, which we will definitely have in all the attachments. We probably have those Born Digital documents in zip containers. We probably have this attachments being an EML file again, and then there's a zip container, and in that zip container is another zip container, then there is its Born Digital document. So the level of software that you probably need to do that, or the requirements for the software, will probably level up. And then it's not only the attachment and the Born Digital documents, there's the body of the email that might be ASCII, or might be HTML, or might be both in one email. It's also possible. And we have the header of the email, which you think is a simple thing. As always, taking a look at it in detail, well, come on. It's not 100% clear what all the different applications on the mail server side as well as on the client side do there. Now, another challenge is rendering emails on a server using Microsoft Outlook. That's the most difficult part, because this damn Outlook just runs in one instance on a server. You could do that, but then you convert one email at a time, and not on your 24 CPU cores, 24 in parallel. Or you use terminal server instances. Now have fun installing that server. We tried. It's not good. So rendering emails to PDFA, you need another rendering strategy. And that could be reading the EML files natively, let's say, or even MSG files natively, rendering your HTML emails, probably with WebKit or some other stuff individually, and forget about the applications. In this case, you'll end up with gray hair or no hair in the end. So another level of complexity in there. Email to PDFA. Many cases, people want to still have their original files, like we heard it this morning again. We store the original file immediately, and then we work on a representation and archive a copy and whatnot. That's a strategy that can definitely be done. Saving the email stream together with the archival format. There's a bunch of options now with PDFA3. You could put the EML file in there and render everything as pages, separating all the attachments with bookmarks pointing to them, or you could put only the attachments as attachments in there, forget about the EML, use PDFA2 for every attachment as an attachment, and around that. You see, it's all possible, and it's all used. It's out there. You can do that. The variety of ways to securely archive emails with PDFA is finally making use of all of it. Now, real quick, he's getting nervous. I'm getting nervous because of you. Real quick, some pros and cons that we hear out there in the market. What does people keep from doing a PDFA project? Except of me holding you up here talking too long. But it is, some people really say, well, PDFA can't do. And why is that? Because their viewer does not support it. Slightly heard that this morning as well. And that's a definitive showstopper in some case. Enterprise content managements are huge installations. And we had customers before saying, oh, we are going to go to PDFA, just we have to roll out a new viewer before, so let's talk again in 3 years. Which is perfectly normal time spent for projects like that, as far as I can tell. So that's probably really something that can hold people off from doing PDFA. Just, I can't do anything against that. It's not a PDFA problem, it's a viewer problem. Other things that we hear is, TIFF is good enough. So what should it, come on, PDFA, TIFF is there forever. And that's true, it's there forever and it worked. It's just a little black and white though, but it's good, it's 30 years old. It's a standard, oh wait a minute. No, it's not a standard. This is a proprietary Adobe specification. While PDFA, where people say, oh, that's Adobe. No, that's a standard. Yeah? So that's the funny part of it. The actual part of it, TIFF, I told you before, can't hold an OCR. It's just black and white. One of our customers sometimes said, we put everything to TIFF, even if you send us a virus, yeah? Or something like that. But you know, you end up with information loss. It's just not, come on, it's 30 years old. Yeah? Come on. It was never made for archiving structured documents or something like that. PDFA costs money. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Going in there and say it's good software, can buy it. Oh, got no budget. PDFA costs money, can't do it. Yeah. Well, my point about that is either PDFA or throw it away. Yeah. So the point is, why bother storing a document when you have no interest in being able to open it up in the future? Costs money, sure, but otherwise throw it away. Yeah, you store your document for 30 years, for 100 years, hoping that you are all retired by that time. Throw it away, save on the storage, right? So it costs money for sure, but come on, yeah. When you want to archive documents, and it's sometimes your responsibility here to archive documents to make sure you can produce the document in the case that there's the law case. I'd say you better spend the money. It's worth it. Yeah. Otherwise, stop the archiving project. Doesn't make sense. Pro, of course, we need a long-term archiving format. Real quick here. This is an AIM study here. How long do you need to keep your documents? 6 years, 12 years. We even don't take that into consideration as being long-term. 20, 50 person lifetimes, life of business, forever or historical. Take a look at that percentage. There was a need for a PDFA. There was a need for an archival standard, and PDFA is the one. Another thing is, now that you decided to use all your native formats out there, you probably end up with a bazillion different file formats in your archive. You can go the way and put it all to TIFF, so you can have your annotation viewer and whatnot there that you can roll out to your task-based worker, or you present a format zoo to your task-based worker and they click on a file, on a customer file, and all of a sudden they get sprung at from excellent Word and whatnot, it's all in there, right? So you have to kind of tame the beast at some point, including output management formats and others. PDF-A helps you not only having a good archive, but it also helps you standardizing your viewing, your printing, and your document exchange in a way. So that's definitely a pro I also see in using everything to PDF-A kind of approach. Next thing is people, thank God, start to realize, oh, thank God in this building, yeah. Start to realize we need quality PDF. Quality PDF, the quality of PDF is a problem. When you have a software that converts PDFs to something, you know that things that are floating out there are just not good, just not good. It's full of bugs, full of errors. There's more than 10,000 PDF producer softwares out there, and that is good for having a choice, but it's bad for having a constant quality in those documents. The downside really also is the Acrobat Reader has a strategy to view, render all these documents out there with all the bugs in there. So nobody really gets the problem that it is out there, that people, that PDFs are broken. When I was talking this morning here, coming in here, one said, oh, I uploaded a bunch of broken PDF files to show during my presentation. And some other, why didn't you load up the 2 that are not broken, right? It must be easier, right? So it's really a problem. You never know that because your viewer just displays them, but it is a problem putting it in an archive. It is a problem probably having to render those broken PDF files in 30 years from now on an unpredicted technology. PDF-A is an ISO standard, and as well as the other PDF ISO standards, help you create just the better PDF, quality PDF that is stable, that is reliable, that follows certain rules. So it's not only about archiving, it's also about having quality PDF in your archives, in your daily use.
Oh, no.
Talking about the life cycle here, things can get complicated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Carsten. 1, 2 questions, or we can also put it to the coffee break. Yeah?
Please.
Which one?
If you convert Office file or whatever file on server to PDF, how can you be sure that it's really completely same?
Yeah, that's difficult. I said it before. To make sure that it's really the same. The question was about how I convert an Office file on a server to PDF-A. How do I make sure that it's really the same? There's different strategies of doing that. One strategy is you the user sits there, puts something in an archive. On the server side, in the controlled environment, it's converted to PDF-A. This is displayed or viewed again to the customer, to the user, says yes, it's okay, checks it off, goes in an archive. This is good, but almost never happening. Yeah, what happens is really unattended processing on that server. I can just say, make sure you take a very good look at your software that you're taking there. First thing, software only from members of the PDF Association, I gotta say. It's true. We take a look at how we can fix things between viewers and validators or evaluators and stuff like that, and we just talk about it. We care, right? But that's only the one thing. The second thing is, this is a question of implementation. Are all the fix-ups there? We heard that Excel spreadsheets are still a problem. Put it into a zoomable view, while others say, no, we have a paper structure with letter size, so we have to break it apart and whatnot. And there's all kinds of things that you all of a sudden rely on. For example, that the user of the document put in the right print view in that document or something like that. It's all kinds of difficult things. But you can make sure with a good piece of software that those documents are either sorted out or in other ways treated in a way. And then in the end, it's still difficult. Yeah, good question.
But I think, relating to the question about why put the original file, I think that's the answer. That's the best reason to put the original file, because then you know that you have the original file. So if you have a problem, no, you don't agree?
As long as the original file works. So it's a short-term strategy. It can't be the long-term solution for having to make sure that you convert this file to a proper PDFA representation, because 30 years from now you end up with a not readable original file and a probably not made sure conversion to PDFA. So you definitely have to take measures and precautions that your PDF software supports all the necessary fix-ups and embeddings and changes and whatnot, and some other plausibility checks that you can do today. Yeah, and it's used out there. So it's difficult, but the difficulty is on the vendors. The difficulty for you is to make sure you pick the right vendor.
Last question.
Yeah.
If you looked at the market and how people are using PDFA, what percentage would you say using it for scanned documents, and how many making what I would call a proper PDF, object-based PDF?
Oh, that's a difficult question, I feel. But what I can say is that at least for Germany, when you have governmental bids or tender business going on, and then there's some scan my documents here and there, scan my documents this and that, in the end there will be a paragraph in there saying delivery format is PDFA. Yeah. Sometimes it's delivery format is PDFA1B or something even more specific, but PDFA is pretty common sense in that area. The born digital part is growing. It's everyday use. It's there definitely, but for many companies, it's the second step. Yeah? Experiences with viewers and the whole environment can be collected very easily with scanned documents, because the conversion to a scanned PDFA is easier, right? And then the second project is coming after that. And percentage-wise, that's a too difficult question. I don't know, but
Thanks for trying.
yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you very much, Carsten.
Thank you.
Well, we have to talk about So will die Zeit nicht rein. So will die Zeit nicht rein. Ja, das müssen wir selber machen.
About for applications and components.
Yeah, Thomas, the guy here, or me. Yeah, and when you have technical questions and discussions, also our CTO is here. Armin, if you want to talk to him. Yeah. There's Armin Ortmann, and he's not in here because he's bored by what I presented. But yeah, I get you in touch. Okay. Yeah. Ja.
Was für Möglichkeiten habe ich im PDF auf verschiedenen Layern zu sichern? Also sichere ich immer das gesamte PDF ab oder habe ich Technik?